New 72 Radio, the voice, views, and visions of the collective.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Mary Berger, and my company is called ComputerDiva. And I am in my series where I'm talking to female business owners, entrepreneurs, about how they got started on their business, what it is their business does, what they're all about, and we're going to throw in some technology as well. So I'm really excited about that. So on today's show, I have the wonderful Miss Connie Vanderzanden from the accounting company. So I want to say a big welcome to Connie, and thank you for agreeing to be interviewed on my show.
Thanks, Mary. I'm looking forward to it. I love conversations around technology because it was such a big part of how I grew my business and what we had to do, what we had to think about it. So
awesome. So I'm just I just see the live feed now. I'm going to share to my page. Great. So now that's being shared. So I'm going to keep an eye on that for any possible comments or questions. So with that said, Connie, I know your business has evolved a lot over the years, and I think right now you're calling yourself the accounting company. Is that correct?
Well, it's funny because when I first started, it was just my name. And around 2007, I decided to grow, and so I thought, I want to call my business the accounting department. So when clients say, hey, just call my accounting department, they wouldn't really know it was an outsourced team.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I had this dream of, instead of one bookkeeper, because that's what I was before I grew the business, one bookkeeper. So my clients were dependent on me. And so a lot of their stuff came with me when I went on vacation. If I was sick, nothing could happen. And I found that was really confining for a lot of business owners. So I had this vision. Why couldn't I offer big corporate accounting, but priced at a small business ability to get to? So like we would have a bookkeeper that did payroll, a bookkeeper that did accounts payable, accounts receivable, and general ledger. So that it would break up the tasks. So that bookkeepers could get really fine-tuned on what they did, but they could provide it for multiple people. So it was like getting an AP clerk and an accounts receivable clerk and somebody to oversee the whole package. And so that was the original idea. And that's why it was called the Accounting Department Inc. And then we called it the Accounting Department. And it shortened over time to the ADI accounting team. So
cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's still the same concept, and I still get, what's your company name? Accounting department. Really? No. What's your accounting? No, that is the name of the business. There are some other businesses over in the U.S. that have done the same thing. So I'm not as original as I'd like to think I am.
Well, I think it's an awesome concept. So how long have you been in business?
I started it took me 3 years to leave the accounting, the tax professional office I was at. In 2001 was my first shingle hung. And I was really lucky because the CPA I was with said, take the bookkeeping clients that want to go with you. So I got some clients right away because that was the whole thing. I was nervous. I didn't think anybody would ever pay me to do what I do.
Right. I felt the same way.
But then I realized I'm the bookkeeper. I'm actually going to cut the checks. So I have a little bit more control over how I get paid.
Right.
Yeah. So back in 2001, I was in a home office. This was my home office. It looked a lot different back then. And then in 2006, I decided working myself to death with that employee mindset was not where it was at. And I found my very first coach was a life coach who was a recovering CPA. And so we worked on things, and that's how the accounting department was born. And from that also, the Bookkeepers Network at a small time was born as well, which was a way to network other accounting professionals, QuickBooks professionals, bookkeepers in the local area to get together so I knew who to refer to. at the time.
Okay. Okay, cool. And is that networking group still up and running?
No, that networking group is not still running, but there have been a lot of offshoots from it in the area. And so there are a lot of good referrals still to go and send people to. People that have done really awesome things with it. It was at the time, I wasn't clear on what the marketing was around it, and bookkeepers at the time didn't see the value of it. Now they're kind of seeing as it's a way to get their name out there even further. So
absolutely. I know in my business, I belong to a couple of different virtual networking groups that, they're all people who do the exact same thing I do. And we refer business back and forth to each other. I've hired some of them to do jobs for me that I really didn't want to do. So, I mean, it's just a great way to get to know other people doing exactly the same thing as you. And my philosophy is there is no competition. There's no reason why we can't band together in groups and help each other out.
Yeah, and that's how the next phase of the business is taken. So it was just me, and then I grew and I had employees that came to my office in Scappoose. And then I closed that office, came back to a home office, and now all my team is consultants that work virtually. And whereas it's an agency style model now, where I do bring in bookkeeping teams or bookkeepers who are proficient in a skill or task to work on the team. They may work more part-time, one-off projects, something like that, but that's the new model. And I actually am loving this model. It's been interesting getting used to employee versus contractors and the difference between the two, and what technologies you supply for employees versus contractors. And so yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but I love it.
Awesome. So I'm going to stop right here and let our viewership know that if anybody is watching this show, either live or on a recording later on Facebook, if you actually share this out on your page between now and August 31st, one person will be chosen at random to receive a gift of a book from Connie, and it will be money related, Profit First. It's one of the most amazing books I've ever read. So share this page out and you'll be entered to win the drawing for the Profit First book.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank you,
I'm excited to offer that. Yeah, because Profit First for me was business changing.
Yes.
It's because my journey was I grew without any plan. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a marketing plan. I just jumped all in. I was already in a really strong hustle mode. So I was working faster, and then I got employees and team that I also had to account for. So after 6 years of growth, I hadn't paid myself. I had created $50,000 in debt, and it looks successful on the outside, but as we know, money kind of helps us. And so if you're not providing to your family, it's not really that successful.
Right.
Profit First came into my world at that time. And the concepts behind it are things I've always told my clients: smaller buckets, intentional use. But it was in a language that made sense now for people. And what I did find, though, is the book only goes so far. Some people really get into the book and they can implement it right away and they really understand it. They will get resistance from their bookkeeping team or their tax pro on how many bank accounts are. But there are quite a few of us that get into it, and if we have a lot of debt going into it, or if we haven't paid ourselves and our expenses are way too high, implementing this gets to be a little sticky, and there will be a lot of roadblocks that kick up. And so that's why I've redesigned my business to focus on cash flow and this type of consulting, cash handling systems. And I developed my own cash handling system using Profit First as the base, which Mike totally encourages you to use it and then customize it. It's called Going Beyond Revenue Cash Handling System. And it takes this and then adds on to it the mindset and the roadblocks that get in our way. And then we talk about the different techniques that you can use with it and how to create a plan, which in everyone else's term is called a budget, and how you use that plan to grow and move your business forward. So Yeah, the book was completely business changing for me, and I highly recommend it.
It was for me too. And I read the book because you recommended it in one of our Connect to Success meetings, probably a couple of those meetings. And I finally read it in April, and I put it into place on May 1st. And I actually did have to, I got resistance from my bank, and I had to change banks.
Yeah.
Because they would not give me accounts that were fee-free. So I switched to a credit union, and I have, I think, 11 different bank accounts between the business and the personal side, because I've implemented Profit First on the personal side as well. And it's working out great for me. I have saved so much money in my various buckets that I never knew I could before. Before I did Profit First, I just kind of winged it. I just hoped there was enough cash flow coming in every month when the bills were due. And I knew when it got time to pay the mortgage every month, I just hoped that I had enough money to pay it. And with Profit First, I pay my mortgage probably a week early now, every month.
Yeah.
And the money's always there. The money is there for travel. I'm going on vacation later on this afternoon, and I have the money for the travel. So it's pretty amazing. I love it. And I can't imagine existing in my financial world without this system.
And the two things that you said there is that you used to hope that there would be money.
Right.
And that is part of the universal experience, that money always does show up, right? It always comes through when we need it. And that's faith. And so that is part of the system that I teach, is having faith that it will show up, and adjusting your mindset from lack and it's always going to be rough or it's just not going to be easy, to it will be there. It will always be there. But the cash handling system, what it also does is create this foundational savings. So once you start putting money into these savings account, money is like, whoa, she likes money. We're going to come hang with her. And so energetically, it draws even more money, and then it becomes easier to have that faith that it will always be there. But the key part of it is that you will eventually grow to have enough in your account this month by the end of August to pay all your September bills. And so you don't have to be in that constant hustle mode of, I have to create $5,000 to cover my next month's bills, or
right. So. And that's what I'm working towards.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing that you said to me way back at the beginning when I first met you, and you were talking about Profit First. Your comment was, money needs to know what its job is.
Yeah.
And this lets money know what its job is. If it doesn't know what its job is, it can't work for you.
Right. We have to think about it as being our best team member ever. And so team members love to have job descriptions. They love to have job titles. And it also helps us when we're looking at our bank accounts, whether it's online or on a statement or in our accounting tool, what its specific use is. What do you really want it to do? What its part, how is it a part of your overall Bigkahuna goals? And then it loves to show up and do that. Now, it gets a little funky because I've done it. I've borrowed, or what I call it, stealing from the accounts. If I set an account and this is its intentional use, and I take the money out and do something else with it, it gets confused. Money overall gets confused, and things don't come in as easily, more expenses come in. And so when you set your intentional use, I recommend starting small. A lot of people like to jump in feet first into the Profit First and go immediately to the percentages Mike recommends in the book, and the author is Mike Michalowicz. But I suggest doing smaller steps so you can grow on them, so that you can see that forward motion. You can see that success.
Exactly.
Build on it. So
yeah. I didn't quite go with the percentages he recommended, especially on my expenses, but I've got a plan for getting them from point A down to point B and a time frame. So the expenses know what their job is, and the money knows what their job is.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. Yeah. So let me ask you, how do I formulate this question? So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what is your ideal type of client, and who is it that you really enjoy working with?
Well, a lot of my clients have a similar story as I do. They have a big goal, what I call it a Bigkahuna Dream. They have a big goal to make a big impact on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that. They've been in business for a while. They've been in business 5 to 7 years. And so they've figured out what successfully they can do. But they're like, okay, I need to bring in support. I need to bring in team. I need to grow my team a little bit more. And I don't know how to do that. I've created a lot of debt. There might even be some tax liability. And they're not connected with the flow of money in their business. With how delivering it and what their market is, and creatively connected to what they're putting out in the world. But how do they pay for everything? How do they get money to flow? And so the business wants to grow, and they are normally coaches and consultants. They're in the virtual world. They usually have home offices, and their team works in multiple places. So they're used to working with a virtual team, and we can work with an existing accounting team, and I can provide guidance on how to talk to them and how to make requests and how to change things so it's easier for the business owner and entrepreneur to use the numbers in their tools. Or we can provide accounting services as needed, and we can go really light on the services up to a full accounting team, receivables and payables and that type of thing. So awesome. A lot of my clients they want to go, and they have a big goal. They understand the use of money. They just don't understand how to always get the numbers to work with it. And so we do a lot of education and a lot of not manipulation, but creatively working the cash handling system.
Okay.
So that they have whatever their goal is, they want to pay themselves. So the goal first is to pay themselves and get regular money coming into their household, and then pay the debt down with a snowball type of effect, like Dave Ramsey or Mike refers to it as well in his book, gradually paying that off. And we see that as we look at the numbers every week and do the cash flow planning, is that we're gradually making success on what their goal is.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool. So let's talk about technology a little bit.
I love technology because, a virtual business has to rely on technology.
I know, right? I mean, I would be lost without it. It's my business. So tell me, kind of describe your office tools and what technology tools you rely on to run your business.
Sure. Well, it was funny because when it was me by myself, the tools were a little different. It was just the accounting tools. I am an Outlook girl. And at the time we didn't have Zoom. I think we had some other type of share Jing, or I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But when you go and you grow your team or you add virtual team members, it entirely changes the type of products you use. They have to be easy to access, so browser based. They can't be so reliant as living on your desktop. Gosh, I still remember all my tools living on my desktop.
Right? Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
No. So nowadays, the first thing I open is Teamwork PM. I love that as my project management tool.
Teamwork PM?
And it has all my task lists and all my clients, and my team can access it. And it's got notebooks in there to keep notes on what's going on with the client. So it's all client focused.
Okay.
And then I open my Outlook because I live in my Outlook. And I like to have that hosted Exchange so that I can see it in a browser if I'm out and about, or I have Outlook on my desktop and my laptop. And then,
are you using the just hosted Exchange, or have you gone to Office 365?
I have Office 365,
okay, cool.
But I still I haven't quite gotten used to Office 365 in the browser.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot different. But I've been using OneNote a lot, and I'm having problems with OneNote on my desktop. And so I've only been able to use it in the browser. So
interesting. It's
funny how tools will get you forced to go one way, and then you just kind of get used to it.
Right.
And then we use QuickBooks Online and Xero, of course, are open all the time. One of my other favorite tools is HubDoc.
HubDoc. Okay,
HubDoc.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, HubDoc is this great tool. It's kind of, it goes out and it grabs bank statements, copies of checks. So every morning it goes out and asks the bank if there's anything it can pull in. It's a read only, so it can't do anything to your bank accounts.
Okay.
It's a good online file storage for that type of thing. So if you have a team member that needs access to those things, they don't have to go into your online banking. They can just go to HubDoc and get the statements. It's good for your bookkeepers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then you can also use it to go paperless and upload receipts. So you can use it like an online file cabinet. It works really great that way. And it's a great tool for my team to access the client info and use that for their accounting.
Nice.
And then LastPass. LastPass is my password manager. And I pay for the console version so that I can control what my team can see and not see.
Right.
It's super easy to share passwords with my team members now. Mm-hmm. And so my clients can even share it with me through their LastPass account. And then if we ever part ways, super easy to revoke all that access. You can not let your team members see the passwords. Or you can, and so for me, when I went to go to a virtual team, the one thing that hung me up was, how do I keep these passwords safe? How do I keep my clients' info safe and secure? And to the point where I had wanted to, before I knew you, I was like, how do I make sure my clients are backing up their stuff? My team members, how do I know that they're backing their stuff up? How do I know that they're virus free? Mm-hmm. And before I met you and DeaCare Services, I was like, oh, now I actually have a way I could do that. I can include that as part of the tools I need a contractor to use. Mm-hmm. I can just cover the cost of it as part of the other tools that I'm covering already, my LastPass and those types of things. There is a gray line I see there, though, if we cover too much tools for our subcontractors. At what point are we actually making them an employee rather than a contractor? But I think DeaCare, at the price point it's at, it's a perfect thing to add on and just give to anybody that's accessing any of your stuff. So
absolutely, and thanks for the plug.
Well, and it's great now that you have both sides. You have the Windows side and the Mac side, because a lot of my marketing team members will be on the Mac side.
Right.
Whereas my bookkeepers are on the Windows side. So
yeah. Bookkeeping is more conducive to the Windows side.
Yeah.
So for those of you out there listening who don't know what DeaCare is, I'll just interject here for a moment if you don't mind. DeaCare is automated maintenance for your computer. We put a little piece of software on your computer, and every week it will do a tune-up. It provides you with your antivirus software, and it runs immediate scans, and it runs immediate real-time scans, and then it will scan your computer, do a full scan once a week, and clean up anything it finds from a virus standpoint. And it's all managed, which means if there is any virus activity on your computer, I get a notification about it, and I can take a look at it behind the scenes and make sure it was taken care of properly and that your computer is virus-free. It also monitors your computer for any alerts that may happen on the computer. If your disk needs defragmenting, if your disk is starting to go into a failure pattern, if there's some sort of hardware issue, maybe memory is being utilized too much, your CPU is being utilized too much, we can automatically hop in there and take care of it. And there's some what we call automated remediation tools based on the alert that is produced. A tool will automatically kick in and start running on your computer to repair what's going wrong. So it's pretty awesome. And like Connie said, it's available for Windows and for Mac. And then we also have a backup system, and we also have a standalone antivirus system if that's all that you're needing on your computer. So thank you for letting me hijack your
yeah. Well, it gives a great peace of mind. So the one story I'll share about this is I had a virtual assistant that I hired, and for some reason I thought I need to send you a portable hard drive. an external portable hard drive because I want to make sure all my stuff's there. If something doesn't work out, you can send it back to me. It was very inexpensive to find one on Amazon to send over and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, good thing that I had thought that through because her computer ended up getting a huge virus on it. Now, she did have 2 computers. She had a backup one, but she could have been down for a couple of weeks there getting her computer fixed. And all my data could have been corrupted.
Right.
And so, and this was simply because she at the beginning, didn't seem to have enough space on her hard drive to sync my Dropbox. So I have a Dropbox folders I was sharing. That's something to consider when you're asking team members to sync with different things. Will they have enough space on their hard drives for these links? Or like another tool we use is Box. Dropbox, Google Drive. You can add them as a drive to your desktop. I'm probably saying that wrong.
No, you're saying it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it makes it super easy to move things around and cut and paste and find things a little easier than through the browser at times.
Yes.
But people might not have space on their hard drives. The team member that you're going to may not have that extra space. So things to consider is like sending them an external hard drive. That way everything's secure, all your stuff is in one place, or giving them DeaCare so that it's protected on that back end. So
exactly. And I know with all of those file syncing services, Box, Dropbox, Google, I'm not too sure about Google, but I think it does, and OneDrive, you can all set them up now so that you can choose what actually syncs to your hard drive. So the names of the files and the file names definitely sync to your hard drive, so you can see it all there, but the file actually isn't stored on your hard drive till you double click on it to open it.
Oh.
So it's pretty amazing the way it works. I know OneDrive for Mac doesn't do it yet, and they're planning on implementing that in the future, but the Windows version does.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, you could potentially have 200 gigabytes worth of data stored in your file sharing service, but only have those files stored on your system that you want stored there.
Oh, nice. So
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And so from a business mentor standpoint, which was what I do in my business as well, is the onboarding process. When you are considering onboarding a team, that piece of information is how you want your team members to interact with your data. That would be a crucial part of the onboarding side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in my Teamwork PM, we have an onboarding checklist that we use. And so that would be part of the information we would share with a team member. So I'll add that to ours.
The reason why this whole piece is in place is because traditionally, prior to the last 3 or 4 years, hard drive space was large. It was vast. You'd buy a laptop or a computer and it would have a terabyte hard drive on it. Yeah. And that would be enough, unless you're, doing video. That would be enough space to store thousands upon thousands upon thousands of docs, and you would never run out of room. Well, then solid state drives came into play, and solid state drives are hard drives that have no moving parts. So they're extremely fast. I love solid state drives. But the downside is they were very expensive. And as time has gone on, the price of those has dropped. But typically if you buy a laptop these days with a solid state drive, it's maybe a 240 gigabyte drive. And a lot of the laptops you buy with solid state drives come with 128 gigabytes, which isn't enough for a laptop at all.
Wow.
So that's why this whole concept of not storing those documents on your system and having the ability to only put those docs on your system when you want to use them came into play with the file sharing services. They had to come up with that technology to accommodate the solid state drives.
That's really great information. I hadn't put the two things together. Yeah. It is also why I like browser-based storage. Mm-hmm. So when I do travel now, because I do travel, like I just was in North Carolina and I go to New York in a couple of weeks, and I'll take my laptop.
Right.
I still sometimes will remote into my desktop,
Uh-huh.
So maybe we can address that that one travel question I have.
Sure.
But I like it because I don't have to have everything on my laptop, but it's in there if I need it and I can access it and download it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
The one thing I do is still that seems to be really dependent on being at my home office on my desktop is the IP addresses with banks. So if
exactly.
anything that requires access like that, I only use one browser on my desktop. So if I have to do anything that for a client that's related to that, I have to use TeamViewer or some way to zoom into my desktop computer, work on that, and then access it. That's the one hang up that I can see so far, because I think it's a hassle every time the banks. I know it's security and it's great, but unless a client has given me my own access I can control, it's like, okay, I got to figure out if the client's even awake. Can they get the text? Can they send me the security code? And so, yeah, that's still a hassle. Any workarounds for that?
Well, it's for security purposes, and it's totally understandable. But, like you, I think it's a big pain. And in me dealing with all of my clients' various accounts, I don't deal with their bank accounts, but all of their online accounts. If I have to log into one of their accounts to do something, I have the same problem. Now I have to text them and say, did you just get a code? Can you give me the code so I can get in? Blah, 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 blah. It makes doing that work cumbersome. Mm-hmm. But it is for security purposes.
Yeah.
So, it's two-factor authentication is not going away. And someday, hopefully, there will be some other different way of identification that we can live with. I think someday in the future, passwords will evolve, and I'm hoping will kind of go away. I do know in my business that I would say the majority of my clients that I start working with, when we sit down at their computer to do a job, I probably spend the first 20 minutes of every job figuring out passwords, because nobody knows what their password is. Not a whole lot of people have implemented password protection programs or password storage programs like LastPass. I use Dashlane myself, which is very similar to LastPass and is pretty awesome. But I work with a lot of residential folks who they either have an address book that they've written all their passwords in, or they have a desk drawer full of Post-it notes or scribbled on lined paper, and they've crossed out one password and written in another, and it's a huge mess.
Yeah.
So if I had any desire to be fulfilled, it would be the fact that people would take more care with their passwords, and they would save a lot of money on my services if they did that. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, there's still, the one thing I like about LastPass is it does a audit sometimes and reminds me that some of my passwords are really be adjusted.
Not really safe, not really secure.
But I think that's part of, as we go into this virtual world where we are working in a browser environment with clients, because when I first started in bookkeeping, I would actually go to people's offices, right? So I was this mobile bookkeeper who came in, dropped in, and left. And so everything would be kept there in their office. So now when we're in this virtual environment, what do we need access to? And a part of that is educating our clients in our team when they first come on, what that's going to look like. And for our team, security is really important. I think everything I do is about, is this secure? That's why I don't use Gmail. I don't use Google a lot, except for my clients that are already over there. And that was a security thing. At the time that we made that decision, why I stayed with Outlook was I didn't like the back end data mining that was being done. And so I chose different tools for that reason. Google, though, is probably the easiest way to share a document with a client now and have people access it and stuff. Dropbox is getting easier, where we're finding using that more, Dropbox paper type of thing. But the great things to consider as we're working virtually with our team and clients. Exactly.
So have you ever run across any sort of huge technology headache that has hindered your business at all? And if you did, how did you get through it?
I think the biggest ones, which is when a computer dies, when a hard drive dies, and having a local person be able to support that.
Right.
It depends on where you live and how many days will you be down, and to plan for that though, using automated backups. We use Carbonite, but DeaCare has that as well. Was crucial because I had extra computers that were pretty much blanks. When I had my office, I created workstations that were blank dummies that they could be easily replicated. And so having a plan and a task written out to say, if the computer dies, what will happen? How can you easily get back up and running? That was probably the one thing is, of course, the computers are going to die when it's a payroll processing day, right?
Of course. Of course.
So that's usually the biggest thing. But now how we have it set up that I can access that backup even on my laptop when I'm somewhere else, so I can get that data. I'm not keeping a lot of stuff on my hard drive anymore. Everything up in the clouds and Dropbox or in somewhere else that I can easily access it. So now that when a computer dies, it's not as serious.
Exactly.
But now I have DeaCare as well, and you're looking on the back side of it. So it's going to be less like being caught off guard that the computer fails. So it's going to, because the computers only last 3 to 5 years, you know.
Right.
It needs care and stuff. And so having you is look at it on the backside, having that service really frees me up to not worry so much about the hardware.
Awesome. That was one of the whole points of me developing the DeaCare product was to provide my users with that space in the environment where they could just sit back and breathe and not worry about their computer.
Yeah.
Computers are going to die. I mean, DeaCare isn't going to prevent your computer from dying, but we should have a good idea beforehand what's going to happen, and we can plan for that replacement instead of going into panic mode when it does die.
Yeah. It's very similar to what I do with cash flow for the clients. There's indicators that show up that you're going to run out of cash in 90 days.
Right.
But we don't always look at it. We're looking at just what the balance is or the hustle factor of what, we need to make. We don't plan too far out. And so now when you do look at it 90 days out, you can adjust your what you're doing or so it's kind of the same thing that you do for my computer, which I appreciate. That was the biggest thing. I've had that happen a couple of times where the computer has completely died and had to learn how to get over that. And I like too that you're somewhat local. I can send it to you.
Exactly. I am local. Yeah.
But finding just as it is in finding good bookkeepers and tax pros, finding a good IT support person is crucial. That talks your language, that doesn't talk too much IT. Because one of my first jobs was for a company that built computers. I was an accounts payable clerk. And so I learned how to build the computers and talk to everybody behind the scenes. And
awesome.
So I can understand to a point.
Yeah.
But that's what I learned from those situations.
Yeah. And I know for my business, I've always got spare laptops on hand for those clients who, laptops and desktops for those clients who their computer just dies without any warning. So I can run it over there and get them set up and get them taken care of. And that's usually a good opportunity for me to sell them DeaCare. So cool. So let me ask you this. Do you, we both belong to the same networking group. That's how Connie and I know each other. We both belong to a group in Portland called Connect to Success, and we meet twice a month. But other than Connect to Success, do you utilize any other networking groups to get the word out about your business?
Yes, I belong to NABO, which is the National Association of Women Business Owners. And it's a smaller group here in Portland, but it is a national group. So like when I travel, I could find a NABO chapter to go visit, and they do a lot of webinars. So for virtual education, and it is quite the amazing thing, if you don't know, that women have not been able to have their own bank accounts for that long. And so they do a lot of like helping people learn how to run for office and what it means to be more proactive in the government system, because to keep our rights growing and more maturing as we would like them to. So NABO's great. It's very a unique organization. And then locally, I still like to go hang out with the Moxie women when I can. And there's a few meetup groups that I like to go hang out with. But then I also, over the course of the years, have met people in different organizations. And we created a virtual networking group called the Powerful Networkers. And we meet twice a month on Zoom.
Oh, fun.
And, yeah. And so it's somewhat BNI related. It's very networked, give your 30-second speech and education and sharing leads and those types of stuff. So it's interesting because it was the first group I've met that was willing to do that same type of thing in a virtual environment.
And I think if more of those were around and available, I'd probably do a little bit more networking, because for me to get in the car early in the morning or late in the afternoon to go networking, it's really difficult because of the nature of my business. Anything can happen, an emergency can pop up, and they usually do a couple of times a week. And it kind of hinders me from getting out there and doing a whole lot of networking. So that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, it works. It works great. We do have a private Facebook page, and we invite guests all the time. So if you guys are ever interested in doing some virtual, you should come as one of my guests.
I would love to. I would love that.
Yeah, and it's fun. So yeah, I'd like to see more of that happen. Portland, like I was mentioning before I got started, Portland is very much a let's have coffee and tea in person to get to know you. But I think you can do the same thing on a Zoom call. Or a Skype call or something like that, and then carry the conversation. How do we carry our conversation virtually? Because we are going to be in that type of environment, at least for me. I work with people all over the U.S. I even had a client in Australia. So
awesome.
You have to go internationally. But, having coffee with everybody is great, but how can we do that differently now? And
Exactly. And with me, most of my work is done remotely. I have really, for the most part, stopped going into Portland because I'm in Vancouver, Washington. So I'm right across the Columbia River from Portland. And I used to go there all the time. And now I've got one client that I go there for and really nobody else.
Yeah.
And I've got clients in Europe. I've got clients in Mexico and Canada. And all over the United States. So the virtual way of doing business it's here, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Driving is a waste of money.
Yeah. And the Moxie women also have a virtual, they do at least once a month. They might do it twice a month. And they do the breakout rooms where they have somebody that's really awesome, because you do go into this breakout room with 3 other people and you do this quick networking, and then you come back as a group, and then you break out. Yeah, so I think there's more and more happening. So be on the lookout if that's your thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't really think Facebook groups, for me, I haven't really gotten into finding that as useful for networking. It's good to pass information, and occasionally I get somebody to PM me and we might connect outside of that group. But that seems a lot noisier than somebody who's meeting on a weekly basis. It's really getting to know your business and can refer you. And it just takes time to build that. So.
Right. And with the Facebook groups, I mean, it requires daily connection and daily attention paid to that group.
Yeah.
Whereas with the virtual networking, it's, one specific time every couple of weeks. Yeah. All right. Very good. Well, Connie, I have so enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Sure.
And let's talk again about our offer.
Yes.
Connie has a copy of Profit First.
Yeah, this is
Way.
this is the original version, and I have a couple of copies of this. And if you may have seen it, this is the new version.
Right.
And it's the same book, but in the same author. But I have a copy that I'm going to share with somebody, and have a profit assessment conversation with you, so you can get your first step started with it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is share this video, whether you're sharing it live while we're chatting today. I think a couple of people already have.
Woo!
And or if you see it on Facebook between now and August 31st, go ahead and share it out. Your name will be put in the drawing, and Connie will give away 1 copy of that book and a profit assessment. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no, because you're very welcome, because it is such business changing that I think everyone should read it. Plus, Mike is a wonderful author. If you ever get a chance to see him, he's just great. He's written The Pumpkin Plan, which is about niching, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, which is like for startups.
Right.
Surge is about staying on top of the niches and the curve of where your business is. And yesterday, or 2 days ago, his newest book was released, Clockwork.
Yes.
Which is about setting your business up so that you can take vacations. So it's setting your team up to be empowered, so
yes.
processes and things. And so I'm looking forward to getting my copy. That's coming on Friday.
Yeah.
On the way.
my copy is in my Kindle reader now, and I'm actually going to take that on vacation with me, and hopefully pour over a couple of pages of that in between spa sessions, I guess.
Oh, yes.
So,
nice.
Yeah. So something entered my head while you were talking, but now it's exited. I wanted to make a point, and I can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. Anyway, thank you, Connie. And I also want to thank Kelly Lair from New 72 Media. She is our wonderful producer behind the scenes. She runs this show. She handles all the technical aspects, and she is amazing. So thank you, Kelly. And Connie, thank you so much.
Thanks, Mary.
I really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Good night, everybody.